There's only one team undefeated left in the NFL. Did the Packers hand the Texans their first loss, or did the Falcons actually stumble against the Raiders? On the flip side, guess who actually got their first win of the season?
We'll find out.
And even though there's one undefeated team in the NFL, why is there a debate on who's number one in the power rankings?
All questions that will be answered here in the following Sports Club recap of Week 6.
Let's start with the Monday night game. And quick show of hands, how many of you, after halftime, went to sleep?
We have one off camera.
Yeah, and this is probably nationwide.
The majority, I would assume.
I can, because at
Unless you're a
halftime, the
Denver
Chargers
fan.
were up 24-0. So you're like, game's over.
Game's over. They're going to run the ball in the second half. Broncos will score some points. Chargers will come away with the win, right? Next game.
Peyton Manning comes out and throws three touchdowns. The Chargers give up 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers in the second half alone.
Not only the Chargers did that, Phillip Rivers did that. Phillip Rivers was responsible for all 6 turnovers in the whole game.
And guess who got the win? Broncos, 35-24. 35 unanswered points. It was the biggest win ever, or biggest comeback ever in NFL history.
Yep. Phillip Rivers did his best impression of Michael Vick in that game.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great comeback for the Broncos.
Was it a Tony Romo-like effort?
Shut up. That's not very nice.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. 35-24 final. Broncos actually come out with a win. I'm
going to have to rewatch that game. I'm going to have to download it and watch it because I'm sure that second half was spectacular.
From everything that I saw, it was pretty impressive. Moving on to the Thursday night game, the Packers actually came away with the victory. Texans are now no longer undefeated. They're 5-1. They're actually one of 2 teams in the AFC that actually have a winning record.
That's embarrassing.
2.
Jeez,
2 teams.
That's embarrassing.
And there's actually one division that's tied all the way around. First place is tied for last, and last place is tied for first.
AFC East, correct?
Correct, including the New England Patriots. Oh. But I digress. Moving back to Aaron Rodgers just having a career day.
Just mad. He was just kind of tired of the offensive struggles, and he just went out there and decided to, beat the unbeaten Texans at home. J.J. Watt was out of this game. I mean, how big do you think that was? Or not J.J. Watt. My mind went
You've
blank.
lost me.
Yeah. My mind. The Texans were missing one of their defensive studs. How big do you think that was, considering he's kind of a run defense type guy, and Aaron Rodgers passed it all over against him?
I don't think it was that big of a deal. But
I
I mean, considering that Aaron Rodgers threw 6 touchdowns in this game.
Was this a blip on the map, or was this Texas's defensive back just, getting dissected, and this will happen week in and week out?
I think this was Texas overlooking the Packers, because look at the Packers, and
How can you overlook the Packers,
but the Packers were 2-3 going into the game.
True.
They were. I mean,
record.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, whatever. And Aaron Rodgers just completely dissected the secondary. 6 touchdowns, 338 yards. He was just on fire.
Ryan Cushing.
There you go.
Jeez, that aggravated me.
Moving on to another team who has been on fire, the Minnesota Vikings. However, they actually lose this game.
Fire got doused, yeah.
38-26. RG3 had a fantastic day. He's actually, I think I saw, he was second overall in the NFL in rushing last week.
That's insane.
I think he had 138 yards in rushing.
That's disturbing from an NFL quarterback.
2 touchdowns, 138 yards rushing. That's it. That's on rushing. And for passing, he threw for 182 and a touchdown.
Let's not overlook what Christian Ponder did in this game as well.
No, he
had 300 plus, I believe, 2 touchdowns. I believe he had 2 picks to go with that. But Christian Ponder, again, for the 6th week in a row, looked solid.
Christian Ponder, compared to his last season,
doesn't even look like the same person.
It's not, because when we came into the season, we were like, Vikings are going to struggle again if they keep Ponder there. Ponder's come out and looked like a true NFL quarterback.
And Vikings look like they can compete for a playoff position.
Yeah, I think they can. Especially, I think the Bears pretty much have the AFC or the NFC North locked up at this point. That's just my opinion.
That's putting a lot of chips in that Jay Cutler basket that I'm not ready to put in there.
We'll see later on in the season. 38-26 is the final score. Redskins take that. Moving on to the Sunday afternoon game. Wow.
Yeah. Big time.
I did not see
Big
this happening.
time.
I figured, the Giants are moving across country. This is going to be a tough game. Eli Manning, granted, he's had a remarkable season. I didn't see the
I didn't either.
49ers getting
I
beat
saw
this
the
bad.
Giants maybe winning this game, but by 23 points, 49ers losing by 23 points at home, that's impressive by the Giants. Look for teams to run the ball on the 49ers late in games. Their D-line is not very deep, and their outside linebackers, which help with rushing, is very, very thin.
I came really close to benching Ahmad Bradshaw this game. Really close.
Good thing you didn't.
116 yards and a touchdown. He
Really propelled that team.
Yeah, he looked good. And the good thing with and we're going to touch on this briefly, but the good thing is with the Giants seem to be one of the most complete teams in the NFL now.
I agree. Yeah,
they can pass the ball. They can pass the ball.
They can play defense.
They can play defense. Their rushing can
ball.
lead to play action passes that can just. They look good right now, and
I agree.
I think that's where the debate is coming from and we'll touch on the Falcons story later, but the Falcons are undefeated. And they're ranked number 1 in the power rankings, but a lot of people are debating, well, why isn't the Giants? Even though they're 4-2,
They have 2 losses.
I know, but
That's it. There's no such thing as strength of schedule in the NFL. I think that's the most ridiculous thing that I've heard the argument is the strength of the schedule. This isn't college football. These are all NFL athletes. It's the most elite of the elite. It's it's not Alabama playing Ball State. It's the elite of the elite. You can't go out there and have a cakewalk. I don't understand strength of schedule in the NFL, in my opinion.
Very, very true. And I was also looking at the stats too. 5 teams in the NFL this week didn't give up a turnover. 5
That's
out
impressive.
of 32. Giants were one of them. Moving on, and this is why I love the NFL this season. It just seems like the NFL season has become the year of the quote-unquote upset.
Yeah.
Because
Is it an
each
upset,
game,
though?
that's
so
my
equal.
point.
They're so equal.
There's so many games that you go in thinking, God, this is completely over match. They're gonna completely, dominate them.
And we've been
and
proven,
the other team comes out and just completely blows them away.
And we've been proven time after time that it's not that way. Every game is a crapshoot. Every game is close, but for some reason we just don't believe it anymore.
Speaking of those upsets, Seahawks actually win
Yeah.
against the Patriots. The almighty Patriots. Granted, I actually fell into that category too.
I did not.
But 24-23, they scored the last 14 points of the game to actually pull ahead and beat the Patriots. Really impressive win for the Seahawks. They're now 4-2. They're actually tied for the lead in the NFC
They're
West.
a force to be reckoned with. That defense is terrific, and if they can find some offense with Russell Wilson at the helm, they can really be dangerous. But in my opinion, the Patriots beat themselves. They were 1 for 6 in the red zone. That's not Tom Brady, Bill Belichick ball. It's not going to happen again. 1 for 6 in the red zone is a once-in-a-lifetime type deal with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Russell Wilson threw for 293 yards, 3 touchdowns.
He can be one of the best rookie quarterbacks up there at times.
Oh,
he has
yeah.
so much talent.
And Sidney Rice actually had a really good game too, 81 yards and a touchdown. Look for Sidney Rice, fantasy owners. Look for Sidney Rice. If he's not on any teams, Russell Wilson's probably going to get a lot more chance to throw the ball around. Look for Sidney Rice if you can to pick him up in your fantasy league. 24-23 final. Bills pull the upset against the Cardinals, 19-16.
Yep.
Big victory for the Bills. They now pull it to the division lead with the
Dolphins,
Jets,
and
and Patriots. Who saw that coming?
I don't. What's wrong with the world?
We're gonna briefly touch on this next game only because I don't want Bryce to turn his face the same color as his shirt.
We just skip it.
Cowboys actually had a chance to win this game.
We played a
And
good
it was
game.
a really fantastic ending. If you guys didn't see this, a really close game. Near the end, Romo throws a touchdown. They go for the 2-point conversion. They're down by 2. They go for the 2-point conversion, and it just goes through Brian's hands. It was just...
was that not deja vu?
Yeah.
It seems like every time Brian has a big pass to him, it just trickles through his hands.
And
I
he had
don't
just caught
understand
the
it.
touchdown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you think, okay, go to the hot hand.
Hot hand, absolutely. Yeah. It aggravates me. Baltimore gives up 200-plus rushing yards this week. That's back-to-back weeks they've done that. I think that's the first time in like 6 or 8 years a team has gone back-to-back 200-plus rushing against Baltimore.
Speaking of Baltimore, Baltimore loses possibly for the season. And I say possibly because just came out today that it's a possibility that he might come back. Ray Lewis is out with a tricep tear.
Actually, I heard something on the way over here that said that might be career-ending.
Okay, so we're hearing different things.
Yeah.
ESPN right now is reporting that he could be coming out.
Coming back.
They only put him on injured reserve, so it's a possibility he could come back at the end of the season. But Bryce is hearing different.
I heard on Twitter, so I mean that's
Same
and
thing.
then Hello Yanada, he is questionable for next week. He has a torn MCL.
Was it? No, it was just MCL sprain.
MCL sprain. Pardon me. MCL sprain. Still, that's
Webb
is out.
Webb, their
Yep.
cornerback,
He is out for the season
out.
as well.
And they actually showed a stat, I think on Monday, that he has the most interceptions over the past 2 years throughout the NFL.
Wow, I would
he had
have
11.
thought that. That's
He had
impressive.
11 interceptions over the past 2 years
That's
since
going to
2000.
be huge for a defense that is kind of playing off a name and reputation rather than performance this year, in my opinion.
So tough losses for the Ravens. They're 5-1 though. They're leading the NFC North or the AFC North.
Very, very good.
They're very confident group. Buccaneers pulled out. Josh Freeman had probably one of the biggest games of his career this week.
Chiefs sucks. I don't know how you couldn't have a big game against
328 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mike Williams and Vincent Jackson both just went off. Had big games. I think both of them had over 100 yards receiving, and both of them had a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. So, granted, the Chiefs are now according to the power rankings, the Chiefs are now ranked 32nd. They're last in the league. After the Browns actually pulled out a win this week, and we'll hit on that shortly.
And the Chiefs haven't had the lead for one single second in the NFL.
This season?
Yeah.
Really?
They haven't had the lead for 1 second at all. The one win came in an overtime field goal. So they didn't have the lead for 1 second of gameplay. They haven't had the lead for 1 second at all this year.
Big, weird game was the Lions at the Eagles. And this is just... We have to touch on this because the Eagles, after the game, on Tuesday, fired their defensive coordinator, which he shouldn't have been a defensive coordinator in the first place. He had never coached defense before. He was always an offensive line coach.
The guy they
Why
hired,
is he coaching
the guy
a defensive
they hired
coach?
has never coached defense in the NFL.
Yes, he has. He was a secondary coach.
He was a secondary coach, but he's never been in charge of the defense.
Okay, but that's fine. But at least he coached defense.
Well, he coached defense, yeah, but
The guy was coaching offensive line. Okay?
But
no wonder.
But look at their defense. Their defense is ranked, I believe, 15th in the league. Their offense is ranked 30th.
But they actually also showed a stat, too, earlier in the week that the first 3 quarters they were ranked either first or in top 10 defense in the first 3 quarters and next to last in the fourth quarter and beyond.
Complete opposite of the Denver Broncos, which I missed that stat. The Broncos have a better plus-minus points ratio in the fourth quarter than anybody else. I believe they're plus 76.
Good God.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter.
Lions pull out an overtime victory, 26-23. The Eagles actually had 3 turnovers. A lot of them just happened because of Mike Vick.
He sucks.
Granted, Andy Reid fired his defensive coordinator to save his job.
Yeah, I still
he's
think,
got 10
I don't
games
think it's
left.
Gonna help.
I'm not sure it's
I
gonna
think
happen.
Reid and Vick are out.
Jets laid the hammer down on the Colts, 35-9. Sean Green went off 161 yards,
Mistakenly
3
ditched him.
touchdowns.
Yeah, that was
It was a
bad.
big game. Dolphins pull out a squeaker against the Rams, 17-14. Tannehill threw for 2 touchdowns and pulled the team out.
The Rams look good with a depleted offensive line. They lost by 3 points on the road, but they looked impressive.
Browns actually pulled out their first win of the season on Brandon Whedon's 29th birthday. He's a rookie, and he's turning 29, and he pulled out his first win through 2 touchdowns, 231 yards. They had a good game, and their defense stood up, and the real funny moment in the game, their game plan, the Browns' game plan actually blew across the field, and Marvin Lewis just picked it up and kind of flipped through it. The next 5 possessions, though, the Bengals just went 3 and out.
The Bengals had 7-3. The Browns had 7 3-and-outs. This game, I believe, that ties the NFL record for most consecutive 3-and-outs.
Wow.
The Browns did snap an 11-game losing streak, and you know who their last win came against? The Bengals.
Oh, really?
Yep. So a little trend there.
Browns are now 1-5 on the season. Moving on to the Raiders. Raiders had this game in their hands. They really did. Falcons defense actually stood up and had a pick six near the end. But Carson Palmer just seemed like he could throw the ball around and have no issues.
The Carson Palmer of old.
It was really scary, especially as a Falcons fan, to watch this game.
Well, Ryan had 3 interceptions. I mean, that's not going to help.
No, and normally when your quarterback has 3 interceptions, you're like, okay, the game's over. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, when you look at games and you look at the box score, you're like, 3 interceptions, okay, they must have lost.
Right.
Luckily for us, we actually have Matt Bryant, who has ice running through his veins.
I just feel like they're a team of destiny this year. Some of their games,
they're playing really well. They're not playing really well, but they're playing good enough to win games. And this is the thing that I've noticed that's the difference from last year's Falcons to this year's Falcons, because it's mostly the same bunch, minus the fact that we have different coordinators. And I think that's a big impact because
pretty much the same personnel.
Yeah, I think Mike Nolan has done wonders with the defense. I think our defense, granted, our rush defense has completely turned around. We used to be top 10, now we're bottom 5. Our pass defense, though, has been completely turned around and been much better this season. The one thing, though, that I see that's difference between the Falcons from old to the Falcons of this year, they actually care enough to, like, if they're getting down in the games, they're not just going to give up. They're going to fight and fight and fight until they actually win. And that's the difference that I see in this Falcons team. They're going into the bye week 6-0. They're the only undefeated team in the NFL. The week after the bye week is going to be against Philadelphia in Philly, which they haven't beaten Philly in Philly in
that's all right.
a long time.
Awful this year. Falcons are starting off 6-0. 25% of the teams that start off 6-0 will win the Super Bowl. Just a little.
I'm not going to throw my money into the bunch.
Just a little stat there. Just a little stat for you.
Thursday night, Steelers are coming off of their bye, and you think, okay, Steelers coming off the bye, we get an entire week to prep. They actually lost to the Titans.
2 big momentum swings in that game. Steelers had a blocked punt, and Roethlisberger was driving right before the half, and he threw an interception. I mean, 2 just really big momentum killers. They have no balance on offense.
No.
None whatsoever. Batch was their leading rusher, I believe, with 32 yards. Mendenhall got hurt. Redmond, their running back, had over 100 yards receiving, but he was maybe 17 yards rushing. They are such a one-dimensional team.
What happened to their offensive line? Because that used to be Pittsburgh's strength. Is their offensive line.
I want to say they lost. I know they lost 1 person for the year before the game, and then they lost 2 people during the game. They lost their center Pouncey and their left guard. An Ohio State guy had to come in, Mike Adams, but they are just extremely depleted at offensive line, and I honestly don't know what they're going to do.
But that's it for the Week 6 recap, guys. Come back and check us out for Week 7 preview. For Bryce, I'm Billy, and this has been Sports Club, guys. Thanks for watching.